I just want you to understand that there is no circumstance where they are allowed to do this, okay? Technically, if we're abiding by the constitutional protections set forth, the First Amendment is supposed to protect.
Mechanisms. And sir, I also want to thank our Treasury Secretary for his work in getting to the bottom of these funding mechanisms and individuals who are perpetuating this violence on our American cities. I was in Portland yesterday and had the chance to visit with the governor of Oregon and also the mayor. They're in town, and they are absolutely covering up the terrorism that is hitting their streets. While you talked about some of the stories of our ICE agents, our Border Patrol agents, how they have been attacked, how they have been shot at, injured, the damage that they've done, these leaders in these local cities, along with Pritzker and Johnson, ignore what's going on, or, sir, they're helping Antifa cover it up. We have arrested dozens of individuals that are Antifa members or affiliated with them, and I want to thank our Attorney General for prosecuting them and making sure they never see the light of day again. They have been so bold in making sure we're bringing those individuals to justice. One of the individuals we arrested recently in Portland was the girlfriend of one of the founders of Antifa, and that we are hoping that as we go after her,
what are we talking about, man? The girlfriend of the founder of Antifa.
About the network and how we can root them out and eliminate them from the existence.
What is the founder of
society.
Antifa?
I want to thank the new journalists here today for telling their stories.
You're a loser if you just shot your dog. You could be the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. It's true.
In America. Many times the legacy media has looked the other way, refused to tell the stories. The networks have not really focused on what this is and what damage it is doing to our country, and how this network of Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA, as ISIS, as Hezbollah, as Hamas, as all of them. They are just as dangerous. They have an agenda to destroy us, just like the other terrorists we've dealt with for many, many years. And today is the day that we have a president that won't tolerate it and will stand up and fight for the American people. So thank you for being here, for being so bold, and for standing in the gap at such a time as this. It will matter. It will make a difference, and your life will be one of significance because of what you've done today. So with that, God bless you, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cash, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the American people gave you a sweeping mandate in your victory in this election cycle, and they demanded safety and security for our citizens. And your administration, with your leadership, has provided us with the resources that we need, which is a whole-of-government approach to go after criminals absolutely everywhere, not just outside of this country, but within this country. And that takes a whole-of-government approach. The interagency seated up here with the Department of Homeland Security, our Attorney General, our Deputy Attorney General, and your White House staffers, and including Stephen Miller's leadership, has allowed us to go out there and map out these networks. What we are doing at the FBI is simple. It does not require rocket science. We are following the money. Money never lies. And that's what it's going to take to bring down this network of organized criminal thugs, gangbangers, and yes, domestic terrorists, because that's what they are. They are harming everyday citizens in every single one of our communities. And the folks you see here on the right and left, they're some of the bravest men and women we have today. They're reporting the stories live time because the mainstream media won't cover it. They're putting their lives on the line. They're standing up for the flag. The least we can do is stand up for them. So you have my thanks. I read more of your stories than I do theirs because you guys are putting out the truth. And we deserve a country where you are protected as equally as they are. We, in this FBI, will go after with the criminals with a vengeance. We will not rest until we find every single seed, money, donor, organization, and funding mechanism that we have. And I want to echo the Secretary's comments on Scott Bessent, who's allowing us to map out these networks through their financial criminal activities, which has been going on for decades. And I would like to remind the American public, they built this disease temple.
Bro, their criminal activities that they're talking about is directly constitutionally protected expressions, like political expressions. Okay? I just want you to understand that there is no circumstance where they are allowed to do this. Okay? Technically, if we're abiding by the constitutional protections set forth, the First Amendment is supposed to protect. The First Amendment is supposed to protect people from this kind of government overreach. In the United States of America, the federal government, or any sort of government really, is not allowed to monitor, or not monitor necessarily, but like just to compel your speech, your political expressions. And I mean, like, we have a maximalist position on this, okay? With the exception of like harm, immediate harm, whether it be threats or whether it be, I guess, like inciting a riot or something along those lines. Even then, it's like, given the First Amendment's protection is so high, like you have to clear a very, very, very high bar. You know, yelling fire in a crowded theater is the exemption that people use. The First Amendment itself, for the record, for those who don't understand it, is not a law. The better way to think about the Constitution is a law for the government, a law not restricting the average citizen's behavior, but instead it is a law that restricts the government from compelling the average citizen's behavior. Not even just the average citizen, by the way. The Constitution obviously expands to every single person on U.S. soil. Persons is the specific terminology that the founders, the framers used okay? The Constitution is a government document that is supposed to have limits to what the government can do. It's not about limiting what the regular people can do. It's about limiting the government.
It was not a good night for me. Let's just say that. It was not fun sitting in that jail, but I'm glad to see what has come of it.
They brought this fucking Tim Pool guy, by the way, Nick Sorter, because he got arrested for, like, I think beating on someone.
DHS agents that I didn't even know existed until I went there and went to that ICE facility. And the morale is at an all-time high. It is so exciting to see these guys know now that they have the backing of the Secretary, the DOJ, as well as the President of the United States, and they are there to do their job. They are going to fulfill this mission and deport these violent criminals. I believe one of the ones that I did a ride-along with Secretary Noem yesterday, President Trump, and there was a pedophile that had come into the country 5 times over the past 7 years. 7 years. And apparently under the Biden regime, that was just allowed to happen. That was fine. No problem. It's concerning to me that you're seeing the Portland Police Department, as well as the governor of Oregon, and the mayor, of course, coming out and running defense for pedophiles that have entered the country illegally 5 times. It's crazy. I'm glad it's taking a front row seat in the media. And, you know, they're being forced to talk about it in reality because, you know, we're the ones that were on the ground. We're the ones that are actually reporting what's going on. And you know, much of the legacy media has been either ignoring it or covering for Antifa for years now. So thank you guys so much for taking this seriously. And President Trump, you mentioned that flag. So remember, you put out a truth right after I
That's right. I saw that.
took this flag from that man that was burning it in the street.
I saw it. Do you know who he is?
Oh, yeah, I know exactly who it is.
So why don't you give it to Pam? Give it to the Attorney General, and let's start prosecutions.
I actually have a second flag.
Once again, burning the American flag is constitutionally protected speech, okay? And the Supreme Court has actually defended this constitutionally protected speech, just so you understand.
President Trump, after that happened to Nick, I called Harmeet Dillon and we opened a pattern and practice investigation into the Portland police very publicly as to how they let this happen.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, Brandy Cruz, you're going to hear us be very fired up today, and you can tell, and it's because some of us have been covering Antifa for 15 years and have never had anyone in a position of authority even acknowledge their existence. And I'll also tell you that I think that had you not done, the single most powerful thing you've done to deal with this scourge has been acknowledging that Antifa is a real thing. I genuinely believe there would be people at these tables who would be dead today and would have been killed in Portland had you not called them a terror organization and said we're going to bring the full weight of the federal government to bear. I talked to Katie Daviscourt in Portland the other day. She'd been assaulted all summer. And she said the same thing. They didn't seem quick to violence as soon as you made that designation. So they're thinking in their heads. They're worried. There's been 24 or so arrested in Portland. They don't want to go to federal prison. There's this video of them, one of them who was in the face of an ICE agent, and then he's in custody shaking. Once you take the mask off, they're nothing. And I was told by probably a dozen people not to tell you this. I'm going to tell it to you anyway, because it's relevant to what we're talking about. I'm living proof that you can recover from TDS. I had strong Trump derangement syndrome for probably 8 years. This is one of the reasons I recovered from it. And by the way, it's much better to not have TDS. I'm happier, I'm healthier, more successful. I even think I got a little more attractive after I got rid of my Trump derangement. Yes. You know, I'm a reporter in Seattle, and frankly, could not care any less what any of you have to say about this meeting. Could not care any less. We're not here for you. I'm not here to convince any of you that Antifa is a real thing, because if you have not come to that conclusion by now, you are never going to come to that conclusion because you don't want to see it. And you're going to go and you're going to say it's a bunch of right-wing conservative influencers who are here spinning a tale. I was one of you. I was a mainstream reporter in Seattle for 10 years. I was a TV reporter on the streets doing my job, and I was still assaulted by Antifa. So it's not about being conservative. It's about people who go there and show what they're doing. And when I saw, after all those years, that the media wouldn't be honest about what was happening, that Democratic politicians wouldn't be honest about what was happening, I thought, well, gosh, If they're not being honest about that, maybe they're not being honest about President Trump either. And it opened my mind to just looking at things for what they were. And now I find you quite funny, actually. It's like I said, I'm much happier about it. But, you know, for me, again, I could not care any less the stories that they go to print. This is what I care about. We have 3.5 years. Nothing is guaranteed, although I think if Democrats keep it up, we'll probably have Republican presidents for the next 3 decades. But nothing is guaranteed, and so what I want to see over the next 3.5 years is a full court press to dismantle Antifa once and for all in a meaningful way. I know, Andy, we talked before this about some ideas. That's really what we want to. I don't care what the media says. I don't care what Democrats say. They will never wake up to this fact. So we want the federal government to take as many of these cases as possible, look at the interstate travel between Portland and Seattle when it comes to these people who are committing violent acts, and hopefully in 3.5 years, they will be a shell of their former selves.
Very close to that, and it's Antifa and many others,
Yes.
unfortunately. There are many others, bad ones. Most have been named terrorist organizations. There are a couple that we're going to. But I think we've got it pretty well covered. But there are many others. But very specifically today, it's Antifa, and it's really bad. And we're going to get it
this
cleaned
is
up.
every
Andy, you have
time.
some- Thank you very much. I'm glad.
Every time people are talking about like fucking Portland is a war zone, it's just really funny to think. It's really funny to just like tune into Portland and show exactly what's going on in Portland when they're like, Portland is a war zone, army of Antifa. And then this is the army of Antifa. And this is the army of Antifa. This is what they're doing in Portland, the war zone, right? It's just, it kind of reminds me of that fucking, it kind of reminds me of that Amon animations where like in real time, as Ethan was like talking about how I'm like this dangerous neo-Nazi terrorist or whatever. And then you tune in and it's like me and Maya and I'm explaining to her like what docking is. That happened in real time, apparently. Okay, you are no different from Israel. Stop hurting your dog, idiot. It's insane. Like, it's basically like that. But it doesn't really matter because, once again, if you just stay on the other side, you can be perfectly comfortable knowing that, like, Portland is on fire, knowing in your heart of hearts, knowing in your mind that Portland is, as a matter of fact, on fucking fire. Okay? Meanwhile, I mean, it happens all the time. It happens all the time with like protests. It happens all the time with protests in general, where you will see people go, the cars are on fire. The cars are on fire. It's completely out of control. They're burning the Waymos. And then you like will watch me go to a protest, the exact protest they're talking about, like Los Angeles is on fire. And I walk 3 blocks away and I go get a fucking ice cream at like a Japanese ice cream restaurant. It is so difficult to cut away at these insane narratives because a lot of people don't want to see the other side. They just want to continue being deluded. Now, under different circumstances, that would be fine. That delusion, that level of delusion would be fine. Okay, as long as it's just kept people scared and it's whatever. But now, after the government has expertly crafted this hysterical narrative, manufactured this outrage, they're using this narrative to continue ridiculous political prosecution, illegal political prosecution of people who are exercising their constitutionally protected, for now, constitutionally protected right to exercise their First Amendment rights, to protest against police, to protest against whoever the fuck they want to protest against. That is the most fundamental American value. It is more fundamental an American value than racism is, okay? That is the most important, most fundamental American value, okay? There's a reason why it's the First Amendment. Now, on top of that, this administration is obviously actively trying to create an alternative. This administration is actively trying to erode that constitutional protection, and this is going to hurt everybody. Okay? A lot of people don't understand. They think, "Oh, those guys are simply, radicals. They're Marxists. They're this, they're that." Not realizing that it's not just the radical Marxists or whatever that these guys want to prosecute, even though that shouldn't be prosecutable regardless, right? Those guys actually want to stamp out any matter of political dissent. That's what they want to do. They want to go after all dissent. They recognize that they are unpopular. They recognize that they don't have the broad popular mandate that they thought that they had, or that they deluded themselves into believing that they had. So now the only alternative at a time when there is like an unprecedented wave of unpopularity, the only thing that they can do is basically force the issue. If you can't become popular with your policies, then you just make it so that it's illegal to demonstrate how unpopular you are, to demonstrate against the administration. That's precisely what's going on.
The governor, and she acts like everything is totally normal. There's nothing wrong. It's almost like, are you waking up from a dream or something? You see it on your network. You see it all over the place. And it's so bad. It's so crazy. It's like the movies you see for the kids. I guess not only the kids, adults also, where you have these bombed out cities and these bombed out people. It's like worse than that. I don't think they could make a movie as bad. And then the governor will get up and say, I don't know why they're coming here. It's such a wonderful place. And the amazing thing is the people want us to be there. The people, when they get the real people that live there, many of them have left, but the real people want us to be there. The same thing in Chicago. So they've had 60, 70 murders over a short period of time. Murders, people that got shot. They've had hundreds of people shot, and then a guy like Pritzker, or this low IQ mayor, gets up. I mean, he got up. He's got a 5% approval rating.
How does he still have support from the people enforcing Trump's ridiculous orders? I mean, a lot of people in that position, a lot of people in the role of the police or even in the military are obviously used to just following orders no matter how fucking silly it is, right? Because the organizational unit revolves around breaking your autonomy down and making you a part of like a larger structure. It's so you become more compliant when people give you orders. That's at the heart of how the military operates. And it can be quite rewarding as well for a lot of people. It can be rewarding for a lot of people who, you know, don't have that kind of structure in their lives, right? And need that kind of structure in their lives. But ultimately, that is the goal of the military, and that's why the military will at times do things that every single individual within the military structure will follow through on. It's organizational obedience.
I believe they're scared. They're actually frightened for their lives. Jack, please say a few words.
Mr. President, thank you so much for having us here today and holding this roundtable. Antifa is real. Antifa has been around in various iterations for almost 100 years in some instances, going back to the Weimar Republic in Germany. And it's now been just under 1 month since we saw a far leftist murder Charlie Kirk, and we saw thousands upon thousands of people, other far leftists and people in positions of authority, people like nurses and pilots and doctors and HR departments, celebrating the death and the murder of Charlie Kirk. This sickness that's out there is absolutely real. And Mr. President, thank you for mentioning the fact that one of the bullet casings read, "Hey fascist, catch" on it. One of the other bullet casings right next to that had Bella Ciao written on it. Now, Bella Ciao is a song that is known in Antifa circles as the international anthem of Antifa. And all of us around this room that have studied Antifa, we're very familiar with these symbols. And Mr. President, I think the situation is getting worse. When you look at people like Luigi Maggioni in his 20s, Thomas Matthew Crooks, of course, who took a shot at you, sir, the ICE shooter in Dallas, and now this Tyler Robinson, we're starting to see a pattern of more and more murderous violence. And this same violence is not just random. It is targeted assassinations, which are getting worse. And every single one of us in this room that goes out there, and obviously you as well, sir, and all the staff, we are now under that threat every single day. And working there at Turning Point USA, and I've spent just about the last month out there in Phoenix with Erica, with the family, with the team. And I will tell you this, Mr. President, even though going through something like that, which is an absolute nightmare, and people say,
how can you watch this for so long is nauseating? I have to. This is the future of the country.
It was horrible. but we're not going to quit.
And it's like
And Turning Point
specifically
USA is
impacting
continuing the tour that Charlie was
people,
on.
not
We had
just like
6,000
myself,
people
but just
when
like
we went back
people
to
like yourselves
Utah.
as
We
well.
had 5,000 people last night in Montana, if you can believe that. We are continuing to organize on campus. We
None of
getting
these are journalists,
more
by the way, and they're
more
not asking
people
questions.
coming out
They're here
in
to
the
just like
face of
chirp.
this threat, knowing what happened to Charlie. But Mr. President, we need to do something about this because I fear that the next one who could be killed could be sitting at this table right now. And we're not going to stop, but they need to stop, and they will not stop until they are stopped. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it very much. One thing I have to say is that Washington, D.C. was almost as bad. I don't know what could be worse than Portland. You don't even have stores anymore. They don't even put glass up. They put plywood on their windows, but most of the retailers have left. But Washington, D.C. was so bad, and Pam, I'd say it took 12 days to really make it pretty good and a month to make it great. And now people are going out to dinner. The restaurants are booming. They don't have enough seats. They're opening up new restaurants because many of them closed. And people are walking down the street totally safe. A reporter, I'm not sure if she's there. I can't see somebody reported there. She is. She was violently assaulted. And I don't know, she tends to be somewhat liberal, but she wasn't liberal on this one. I appreciated your honesty, but that won't happen again. It won't happen again. You're lucky you're alive, frankly, with what happened. I know exactly what took place. So Washington, D.C., our capital, we thought we'd start there appropriately, and it's safe, and people are so happy. They're so happy. And now it's a couple of months. I went to dinner there. I felt totally safe. I gave a press conference right in the middle of the street, which I don't think Secret Service was thrilled about. But, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have wanted to do it 6 months ago. It's incredible what happened. Now we're in Memphis. As you know, we're having a great impact in Memphis. It's been only a week, but it's, Cash, I hear it's been amazing what's happening there, just very early. But you take a look at D.C., and you take a look at some of the other. We've had a big impact there. What we haven't said, because Pritzker said, well, crime is going down in Chicago. Well, 5 months ago, Cash went to Chicago with a lot of FBI agents just to prepare it so that we went in with, I guess you could call it a surge, call it whatever you want, but would be even more effective. And we're going to be doing that, and very, very strongly doing that, because Chicago is a very unsafe city. It's a great city. The head of the Union Pacific Railroad said, sir, please save Chicago. It's a great city. It can be saved. Other cities are gone. I mean, they're lost. They can get better, but they're just
totally.
Really, they've been so
They're
decimated.
lost.
But I'm so proud of what they've done so quickly in D.C., and it's taking place quickly in Memphis, where we were asked to go by the mayor and by the governor. And it's really incredible what we can do and how fast we can do it. Let's go for two more. Would you like to go? And then Katie, you'll go. Okay, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, for having us here. And not to sound like a broken record, but it needs to be said that Antifa is real. Yeah. It's real. It's a threat. I just saw them last weekend over in Portland while they're causing mayhem over there. And the reason why there's such a big problem is because we have Democrats and a lot of people in the mainstream media refusing to acknowledge that they even exist, right? So how can we as a country begin to address it if we have large swaths of these people who are supposedly decision makers and people who are supposed to inform? They don't want to say that it exists. Because the common argument is like, well, they're not a real organization because there's no national leadership, they don't have a national headquarters, so how can law enforcement go after a group that doesn't exist like that? Well, law enforcement goes after criminal groups that organize to rob banks or do smash and grabs. They don't have a registered LLC. They don't have official membership cards. They don't have, a business address. But law enforcement still goes after them because they're working as a group. These people don't just show up, randomly at the same time.
It's because anti-fascism is not an organization. It is an action. Okay? You miss when Jack Posobiec said Antifa has been doing terrorism since the Weimar Republic when they were fighting actual Nazis. These people think opposing Hitler was terrorism. I know, because they're fucking Nazis. And that's the only reason why you would criminalize anti-fascist protests. The only reason why you would ever turn around and criminalize anti-fascist protests is if you are a fascist. Antifa is not an organized unit, okay? Anti-fascism is an action. Anti-fascism is a principled action, okay? If you call out someone being racist, you can consider that anti-fascist action in that moment. If you go out and you counter-protest against fascist protesting, that's anti-fascist action, okay? There's no, Antifa headquarters. There is no getting together and rounding up the troops and then deciding that we are going to we are going to operate in an organized capacity to go and do anti-fascist mobilization. It doesn't work that way. And not only does it not work that way, but even if it did, even if there was an Antifa organization, okay, even if there was a centralized anti-fascist organization, it would still be constitutionally protected, okay? The American Constitution as it stands currently does not have any domestic terrorism tools that they can use to prosecute individuals who are getting together and gathering together and doing acts of political expression. Okay. Yet the Trump administration is trying to change that. Now, this is such a maximalist position that you can literally have the Patriot Prayer and the 3%ers and the Oath Keepers and things of that nature actually participate in mass demonstrations around the country. Okay? That is the reason, because the First Amendment makes it so that as long as you are not directly engaging in some kind of like violent or some kind of criminal action, then you can't prosecute them. He said the government goes after orgs that rob banks. I guess that means all banks are safe now. There's a difference, right? There's a difference there. That is a criminal element getting together to do a crime. It is, as of now, not a crime to protest. Thank you. That's the point, right? It is a crime to try and rob a bank. It is a crime to successfully rob a bank. It's even a crime to attempt to rob a bank. It is not a crime to organize a protest. It is not a crime to mobilize to organize a protest. Is it not only not a crime, it's a right. It is a constitutionally protected right. There is no constitutionally protected right to robbing a bank. There is, however, a constitutionally protected right to organize a fucking protest. Okay? It is ridiculous.
Do it because it's an important topic. It's an important issue. The American people deserve to know what's happening in these chaotic situations, and we're more than happy to do it. So thank you, sir.
Great job. Thank you very much. Katie, please.
Hi, Mr. President. It is an honor being here today, and I first wanted to start by thanking you guys for designating Antifa a terrorist group. It's exactly what this group is. It's a long time coming. I'm an investigative journalist from Seattle. I work for the Post Millennial alongside Andy No and Jack Posobiec. I have been infiltrating Antifa cells in Seattle and Portland for the past decade. I know their inner workings, and Antifa uses extreme political violence to crush the civil rights of their political enemies and believes that violence is justified by any means necessary. But today, I want to focus on what is happening in Portland at the ICE facility. I've been covering this for the past 4 months, and this is a call out to corporate media who has completely ignored this story or has falsely reported on it. This is nothing short other than a sustained attack on the United States, which is being supported by Democratic elected officials. The Portland Police Bureau has completely abandoned several blocks outside the ICE facility, giving away their jurisdiction to a terrorist group who has spent the past 4 months harassing, assaulting, and intimidating anyone they perceive to be against their cause. Not only have federal agents been relentlessly assaulted for more than 100 consecutive days, black-clad anarchist militants concealing their identities behind black facial coverings have been assaulting reporters just for trying to cover their crimes. Today, I am sitting here with a black eye and a concussion after being violently hit in the face with a metal pole while reporting outside the ICE facility just this past week. After the attack, I immediately went to three Portland police officers who refused to detain the suspect. I took the time to chase down the suspect in the streets, had her held for 35 minutes. I was waiting for Portland police to come, and they never came. Then that's what opened my eyes to what this group is actually doing. I watched 20 Antifa militants help my assault suspect escape into an Antifa safe house that is 1 block away from the ICE facility. And this safe house is where Antifa-affiliated protesters are conducting paramilitary operations. It's where they're arresting, they're showering, they're eating to continue this occupation. I have staked out this safe house and have observed shift changes. This group is highly organized. It is being funded through mutual aid groups. and they have no plans of stopping. Residents living across the ICE facility have been held hostage by Antifa. They're begging for federal intervention. The city, and they want you, President Trump, to come in and restore law and order. I want to stress the importance of taking this situation seriously, because when I first started reporting on this occupation, I went undercover in Black Bloc. I talked to these Antifa militants. I lasted for about a month. They believe that ICE agents are the Nazi Gestapo who need to be killed. They told me that directly, and I think that if this situation is not taken as seriously as it is, it's just a matter of time before someone gets killed. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Katie. That's pretty incredible. The only question nobody can answer is why. Why are they doing this? They're like insurrectionists. They're terrible people. But you really wonder why. Why are they doing it? What are they gaining other than they're obviously paid? They're paid a lot of money. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, if I can answer that question, the reason why they're doing it is because the same media that's sitting in this room with us has declared all of us at this table Nazis and fascists, and they've been doing this for years. This is why Antifa feels emboldened to attack us. Now, almost every single person at this table has been threatened with a steel bat. We've been assaulted, we've been harassed, we've been threatened, and that is in huge part due to the media. So my message right now is for you guys. Because 2 years ago, back in 2020, by the way, I was censored for my reporting on Antifa here in Washington, D.C. You were talking about how safe it is now, Mr. President. It wasn't so safe back then. Back in 2020, I watched as a father was being mobbed and surrounded by Antifa members as his terrified, crying children looked on and the police here did nothing. I watched as a woman had her hair violently ripped out of her skull simply for waving an American flag on the streets of Washington, D.C. And by the way, if you guys try to go and find any of this footage, you won't find any of it because Twitter deleted all of it because our president shared my reporting and they deleted my entire account immediately after. So now, if you want to know what happened in 2020, all you're going to see is the media headlines that said that it was fiery but mostly peaceful. Thanks for that one, CNN. The reality is that it was an extremely violent period of time, and for the last 10 years, Antifa has been wreaking havoc on law-abiding and innocent American citizens, and it needs to end. Now, I'm with Turning Point USA. It's an honor to be here, Mr. President. Thank you guys so much, everybody in the administration, for giving us a seat at the table, because the media has not only been demonizing us for so long, but immediately after the brutal assassination of our founder, Charlie Kirk, our Turning Point USA chapters have seen an uptick in violence across the nation as Antifa chapters that are embedded in our universities go and target them. It's been extremely difficult to report on the ground, and for a long time I was afraid to go to Portland because I knew that the only people who would have my back, like Julio said, were one of my friends on the ground because there is no police force there. I was terrified to go because I knew if I got shot or stabbed, and I have been assaulted, I've been mobbed and robbed in Austin, Texas by Antifa, that nobody would come to help me. So my plea to the entire administration, especially to the DOJ, is every single radical left-winger who is in front of the ICE facility in Chicago, in New York, in Portland, please make sure that you use the full force of the law to come after each and every single one of them, because it is us being soft on left-wing violence that has fomented all of, the terror that we have seen in this country, and it is the left wing getting away time and time again with assaulting law-abiding American citizens that has led us to this place. So,
is this level of dick sucking allowed on television? Yes. And also, what's really remarkable about this particular type of dick sucking is that it's happening while the government is shut down. This is what they're predisposed with. The government's fucking shut down, and what these guys are doing, instead of trying to address that, instead of, offering people additional funds, offering people additional subsidies so they can continue fucking paying their unimaginably expensive healthcare premiums, but at least manage it to a certain degree, because that's what the government is shut down over, for the record. Instead of coming to terms with that and then taking a fat dub, you know what I mean? Because Donald Trump could just easily be like, that's right, I love healthcare. Democrats hate healthcare. That's why we're doing healthcare. And then said, we're doing Trump care. I'm calling it Trump care, right? If he actually wasn't such a empty suit that is a servant of capital, that's what he would do. If he was truly the populist leader, that's what he would do. If he truly cared about even advancing a nationalist project, doing a nationalist project, he would offer at least like his base some treats. And I don't mean just treats necessarily, but I mean he would offer his base something like some kind of financial leg up at a time when people are experiencing unprecedented levels of this affordability crisis. That's where we're at. He's not doing that. And instead, he's just offering the base red meat like
Rose
this.
Network, the Open Society Network, it's other funding networks, the Arabella Funding Network, the Tides Funding Network, Neville Roy Singham and his network, Foreign Cash. And it's also big left-wing funders. Some of them are not citizens of this country. Mr. Hans-Jörg Wyss of Switzerland. They're pouring money into this entire ecosystem. And so I want to share 3 money facts with you about what we call Riot Number 1. Like any corporation, Riot Inc. has many divisions. It doesn't just have the Antifa boots on the ground division. It has PR divisions. It has marketing divisions. It has a very well-funded legal division to get these boots on the ground back on the streets as quickly as possible. But it does have those investors that I mentioned. Number 2, we have identified dozens of radical organizations, not just the decentralized Antifa organizations, but dozens of radical organizations that have received more than $100 million from the Riot Inc. investors. These would be the lawyer groups. These would be the groups that advocate
What they're
for
talking
calling,
about here is like bail funds, right? Like people who set up bail funds specifically so that people who are arrested for not breaking any fucking laws or anything, people who are simply arrested and detained can be quickly released, okay? That's what this is for, but they call it the fucking Riot Inc. or whatever.
Charged with domestic terrorism. These groups received money for that from both the billionaire class as well as taxpayer money. So one other thing, this
like
money helps fund the decentralized crowdfunding. These are
the
Antifa
legal observers that are participating in the protests and are there specifically to the Lawyers Guild that specifically is there to look at violations. The National Lawyers Guild is there to write down violations of constitutional protections. Like they even consider Act Blue, which is like the funding vehicle for the Democratic Party, to be a part of this as well. It's just a payment processor. It's just so ridiculous.
Pam.
Absolutely.
Or Christie.
Yeah, we'll do that.
As soon as you can. That's all of you.
This well-funded legal org works to protect Antifa terrorists from prosecution, according to the Federalist newspaper.
But these are people that
there's a reason why they're covering this shit right now, by the way, because they want to go after every single organization that specifically works to ensure that people's constitutional rights are not fucking violated. Okay? I'm sorry. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's probably not a cow. Okay? If you are prosecuting people who are anti-fascist for simply engaging in anti-fascist demonstrations, if you are saying that anti-fascism is a terrorism designation, if you are actively trying to go after all of these other groups, all of these other like 501c3s, for example, that work to ensure that the administration doesn't violate every administration, by the way. Like this is not, these organizations are not, Democrat run or Democrat funded, by the way. These organizations also operate when the Democrats are in charge. The National Lawyers Guild and the ACLU and all these other like civil liberties, like civil rights organizations, human rights organizations work under every administration. They're agnostic. They're not specifically working when Republicans are in charge or anything like that. They were literally there when protests were happening on college campuses and the Biden administration was in charge and people were getting packed up. 3,500 people got arrested on college campuses for protesting against Israel. They were there. They're there to protect civil liberties for all Americans. Okay? That's what they're there for.
Dangerous, and I thank you, Mr. President, and your administration as well for acknowledging that.
Thank you very much. It's too bad you have to go through it.
I know, it's a little crazy, right, Mr. President?
Well, you're going to get to the bottom of it, so it's a very important thing you're doing. Thank you very much. Please, Cam.
Yeah, I've just got something very short. I'm attacked every time I do my job.
I do find it pretty crazy, though, that like they're basically looking at the situation, right? They're looking at the situation and they're like, they did January 6th. a lot of these groups that participated in January 6th were responsible for other criminal acts as well, not just protests, but like straightforward incidents of like domestic terror, right? And these guys are looking at that and saying January 6ers are actually good. And that is not like a real insurrection. They were just simply visiting the halls of Congress, but maybe were a little too aggressive in their visitation. Okay, maybe they expanded on their visitation rights. Okay, and they must be freed. And Donald Trump actually got them free. He pardoned every single person. And some of those guys literally had to go back to jail because they were pedophiles. Okay, but what's crazy is, on the one hand, those guys are good as long as you are doing an insurrection, like a legitimate insurrection at the behest of the president, the current president, then that's fine. If you're a brown shirt, that's fine. That's really good. On the other hand, however, if you are protesting against the administration, then you're bad. Then you're bad, and you should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. You should be treated like a terrorist. You should be black bagged, and you should be arrested. It's ridiculous.
Also, just the stories that they publish about what's the ICE enforcement operations that are so heavily slanted that it's no longer, as I was saying, no longer just Antifa, but Americans that are becoming radicalized. So they've been very irresponsible with how they've been reporting.
Who is that?
MSNBC, for example, they're
Would you rate them the worst?
probably.
Who would you rate second?
Well, they ran a story about an operation in Southern California about how a father of 3 Marines was arrested, and they made it seem like they just did it because he's brown. But there's video of that same man charging at the agents with a weed whacker. Now, I've worked with weed whackers back in the day, and you don't want to be on the receiving end of one of those. So that's why he was arrested, but the story was presented as if it's a brown guy just simply being arrested. And I've been around ICE agents, and I'm a citizen, so I feel fine. But it's just that's why. It's not just Antifa. It's not happening in a vacuum. It's multiple
working
factors.
in conjunction. I think they work in conjunction with some of the media. I think ABC is very bad. I think NBC is very bad. And CBS has a new owner, so we have hope for CBS. CBS has a great new owner, my opinion. But I will tell you, ABC is terrible. NBC is terrible. NBC's MSNBC too. They changed it. They moved it over legally so they couldn't be tainted by the words MSNBC, but they are absolutely terrible. There are a lot of them. What about independents? Independent networks.
They're a little bit better, but I would say that we're an example of how you don't need to be part of a super large company to be able to do just basic journalism. All you got to do is sit and record, and you'll let the story play out. And that's why they hate us. That's why Antifa targets us.
Well, I watched a level of dishonesty that's incredible, where answers are changed. Like just before the election, an answer was changed by Kamala. She gave a horrible, death-defying, election-defying answer, and they took the answer out and they replaced it with another answer that she gave 5 minutes later, having to do with a different subject, but at least it wasn't election-defying. No, the level of dishonesty with the media is incredible, whether it's on Antifa or many of the other groups. You're talking about Antifa, and I know that's close to your heart because that's the one that's most affecting you. But there are others that are as bad or almost as bad as Antifa, having to do with different people, different sections of the world. But it's terrible. We're not going to let it go on in this country. We're not going to let it go on. And a big problem is not all of them, but some of the networks out there. And you do wonder why. You really do? Okay, please, go ahead. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you again.
Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Cho. I am an investigative reporter for Frontlines Turning Point USA. I'm also a senior fellow at Discovery Institute in Seattle. And I cover far-left extremism as well as the homeless drug crisis in America. And I find it oftentimes those worlds intersect. And hot off the presses, what I wanted to bring to your attention today is a report from a Capital Research Center here in D.C. in conjunction with Discovery Institute. They just put out this study right now. And what it shows is that Antifa is heavily embedded in the homeless and housing nonprofit sector. In many cases, the homeless industrial complex is running cover for Antifa.
This is a real who's who for literally all of the worst scumbags. It's like, this is, if you've ever been on, what's the guy's name? What's that fucking guy that Asmongold watches all the time? The guy who goes to what was his name? I'm forgetting now. Tyler? Was it Tyler or something?
To make the police look bad.
The fuck was that guy's name? Jesus Christ. Tyler Oliveira. Yes.
And working with Antifa
it's basically is basically a real who's who. If you've ever appeared on a Tyler Oliveira video, if you've ever set up a grift specifically to talk about the dangers of Antifa, you have been invited to this panel. It's fucking insane. Even this guy, who is like a relatively newcomer to this reactionary content slop industry, was invited. This guy, I've dunked on before. He's just like too stupid to make a coherent argument. It's crazy.
The needle and change the game. But what's also come
Just a
out
straight up
again
clown
is
show.
that there is a connection, a deeply embedded connection with the homeless housing nonprofit game.
Yeah. Each speaker goes like this. Hello, glorious President Trump. You are so beautiful and hot, and I love you. Antifa thugs insulted me, and it made me sad. And we need to make protests illegal. I'm so lonely. I'm a journalist also, by the way. Lamau, one of these freaks just said, Antifa deeply embedded in the homeless industrial complex. Like, it's fucking crazy.
You know, and he helped us get elected, us. It's really
But
is
once
us.
again, you can say whatever
It's
the
even
fuck you
some of
want.
them, but not too
And
many
it
of them,
blows
enough
my
of them.
mind.
And
It blows my mind that you can say whatever the fuck you want. And nobody is going to go, hey, I don't think that's true. I don't think what you're saying is correct. I don't think there's like a big homeless industry that specifically benefits from there being more homeless people. Like, there is no homelessness industrial complex.
Handful of those other outlets that have been lying about, I mean, various things, but especially what ICE, the brave men and women over at ICE have been doing. I was talking to Antifa members in Portland the other day, and a lot of these people genuinely believe, they buy these lies, and they genuinely believe that they're fighting against literal Nazis and not brave men and women that are putting their lives on the line to basically, enforce basic immigration law, right? That everyone seemed to agree with up until maybe a few years ago, a handful of years ago. So once again, thank you so much for having me. My name is James Klug. While my primary job is traveling around the country, having conversations with Americans about various political topics and issues, I have had a lot of run-ins with Antifa over the last 5 years. And I do think that Antifa is a primary reason why many conservatives are afraid to go out and protest and make their voices heard and maybe bring friends and family to a demonstration and exercise their First Amendment right, because they are literally deathly afraid. And I talk to these people all the time. They're afraid of militants showing up in black bloc and hurting them and their families. And, I've personally witnessed Antifa assaulting hundreds of police officers. I've witnessed them firebombing police departments and federal property. I've witnessed them making death threats against federal agents, police officers, journalists. I think I've witnessed every single person here, maybe not personally, but I've seen them get, hunted down and attacked. And so,
that's an incredible
this is a group
claim.
that is responsible for a good percentage, if not a majority, of the violent riots in 2021 and 2020 when Democrat mayors had a kind of a hands-off approach with these left-wing militants. Just as a quick reminder for everybody, we're talking about dozens of murders that happened.
We probably
in those
watched a video
riots.
with
We're
all of
talking
these
about
guys.
Billions of dollars of damage to
These
property and
is a real
communities
who's who of some of the
country. We're talking
worst
about thousands of
motherfuckers out
officer
there.
Injuries. So this isn't just like some little thing that they're, they punch a journalist here and there. No, they're responsible for a lot of damage and a lot of people that have, unfortunately died, and basically suppressing people's voices, And so what I did want to talk about is, to get this footage, almost every single person in the room here, to get this footage, you have to go undercover because you are at risk of being beaten or worse. You have to go undercover. You have to film low-key to capture them committing crimes. This is stuff that the mainstream media was not doing and has not been doing. They'll show when Antifa is maybe, it's a little bit more peaceful, and they'll show when it's more mellow, but they'll remove the cameras when things get violent and it's actually dangerous to be here. And I have personally witnessed legacy media vans showing up at a riot 300 yards away, getting out of the vehicle, filming for 30 seconds, saying something like, fiery but mostly peaceful, packing up, and to add insult to injury, you have Democrat politicians that are saying, it's just an idea, right? That's all this is. So it's just an idea. After all of this chaos, it's just an idea. Well, that idea has threatened to kill me and many of my friends that are here today. So, Mr. President, thank you so much for bringing this to the forefront and for making a big change.
The
Really
guy
appreciate
talking
it.
about, the guy talking right now, James Klug, is a YouTuber whose most popular video is not all Black Lives Matter. They have Asmold and the Twitch's hentai guy in the White House before long. Oh, for sure. The White House is bringing on straight up Nazi slop tubers That is where we're at already. Like, it's one step removed from like having literal VTubers beaming in. Antifa's job is to literally make fascists afraid to do fascism. Antifa is not a organization, as we already talked about, but it's like anyone and everyone that takes it upon themselves to say, fuck Nazis. It can be something as simple as that. And that's precisely the reason why everyone is technically liable for prosecution.
Thing is Antifa, or someone has a patch that says Antifa. It doesn't matter. You know, did they assault someone? Did they assault a federal agent? Were they engaged in rioting? What is it? And so they're always using that, oh, well, they don't call themselves Antifa, even though some of them literally do. It's called Rose City Antifa. How long has it been around in Portland, Andy?
Since 2007.
They call themselves Antifa. In Seattle, I was outside the federal building, and they were yelling, there's no police here, this is Antifa land. And then at the same time, Democrats, like our governor, oh, Antifa is an idea. But yeah, I think Antifa can overlap with a lot of other entities and organizations.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You know, President Trump, I just wanted to add this real quick, because you were asking which mainstream media outlet is the worst. What I think, it's any of them that decided to call Kilmar Abrego Garcia Maryland Dad. Because when I'm out there on the street talking to these people,
it is.
They call it Maryland Dad.
This is not about like addressing a serious threat. This is about forcing this administration down your fucking throat to say, anyone and everyone that has ever criticized the administration or saw like the humanity of a random migrant that the admin decided was actually a scary MS-13 terrorist, you're fucking going to get prosecuted. It's because these guys can't cope with the reality that they're like their narratives are not working. Their narratives, in spite of no adequate counter messaging operation coming from the Democrats, is still not reaching a broad enough base of support. So they just have to turn around and say, all right, well, if you don't fuck with us, then you're going to jail. That's what
Trump
it is.
is gonna come and
This
help us.
is straight up prosecuting discontent. Oh, you don't think I'm cool? Fuck you. You're going to jail. It's simultaneously fascist, but it's also childish, you know? It's also fucking childish, if that makes sense.
Off by these rioters, children crying because they, can't sleep at night and they're scared of all the noise outside, and they can't leave. They got a lease. You can't just leave. These people aren't wealthy individuals, and that's one of the major problems here. And these people are afraid to come out and speak out, and they're getting no help from their government at all. They've been begging for the noise ordinance to be enforced outside of their apartment complex for months now, and the city of Portland has ignored them every single time. The victims are, as I said, they're afraid, but the governments aren't doing anything because they want to spite the administration. It's all political.
And the politicians make you feel like you're foolish, like there's something wrong. Like, how could President Trump be saying that about Chicago? And yet the night before you see that, 11 people were shot, 5 people died, and you have him talking about like it's a wonderful situation. They make you feel guilty. And a lot of people don't get over that. They just don't get over it. I think they convince the people. Do wealthy people leave too or not? Places like Portland, are the wealthy people leaving? People that can leave, are they leaving?
I think that they're moving to the areas that have been gentrified. I mean, the Oregon governor, when she was saying, we don't need Trump here, she's walking around. It's a very tight shot, if you notice that. And she said, Portland's just fine. Look at me. And they'll focus on the couple areas of Portland that are very nice.
Well, she was saying that, and there were explosions in the background.
Yeah. I mean, there was a reason they cropped it in.
Explosions in the background. So anybody have anything else to say over here? Yeah, well, just the protesters that you... And then we'll get, should we be taking questions, or is it just a waste of time? Because they can ask questions, but, well, there's Brian, he's good. But you know what? In a way, it's a waste of time, because if you give a great answer, they don't put it on. If you give a horrendous answer, or even if you give a great answer, they make it sound like it's not a great answer. They're very dishonest. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, and I think part of that dishonesty comes from what they see. For instance, I've never been asked to go on any other show besides Fox News. My clips go viral everywhere, but they've never even asked, like CNN's never asked, MSNBC's never asked. And a lot of times when I go to hotels, I'll stay and I'll watch like MSNBC.
Fortunately, their ratings are terrible.
Dude. You see? No, this is literally, I'm not popular. Why am I not popular? Please arrest these people. They've made me feel bad, and they don't use my clips.
job.
Yeah, and hard to show what's going on these days. You literally have an iPhone and you can post it on X.
They don't believe in the star system, you know. It's just one of those things, right? Okay, Nick, you finished, Nick?
Yeah,
Are
thank
you
you very
finished,
much.
Nick?
Oh my
Good
God.
job. Thank you very much.
Even
Well,
he
you've been
said,
through hell,
even
I
he's
tell
like,
you
all
that,
right,
but
enough,
you're
Nick.
Really incredible patriots, incredible people. Go ahead, please, Brian. Brian, go ahead.
I'm so thankful for each and every one of you here right now, and I'm very grateful that my network, Real American Voice, has partnered up with many of you. Jack and Sylvan, you have a show on a network. Many of you, Savannah, have appeared on a network as well, so thank you for being here. My question is this: in terms of following the money, I would just notify that the city of Austin is cleared to vote tomorrow to basically waive a $120,000 fee so that a No Kings, basically an anti-Trump rally, can occur in their city. They're bypassing the fees, rolling it to the taxpayers. So my question is to you, what can the people of Austin, Texas do right now to make sure that their tax dollars don't fund a No Kings anti-Trump rally coming up?
Why don't you just tell me? I would love to do something about that. Bring a lawsuit, do something. You know, the best thing you can do is have honest elections, because the elections are totally rigged in so many of these places. You know, you take a look, the people, they're all loving you. They can't breathe. They love so much, every one of them. You don't see one negative, then all of a sudden you lose the election by 20 points. The elections are so rigged, and we proved that in 2020 more than any other time. But even the last election, there were areas that I won by much more. We won in a landslide, but I actually won in more of a landslide than we thought. I said, you got to get out, make it too big to rig. And fortunately, the people made it too big to rig. They tried. They tried. But the biggest thing you can do is have honest elections. You know, if you don't have, and you need great media. You need borders. Wait. You need borders. You need honest media, you need honest elections, and you have a great country, and you need all three of them. Yeah, go ahead.
Lieutenant had ties to all these radical groups that you talked about inside here, so thank you for removing
I would like you to make a big deal, though, if they're waiving a fee, but I guarantee they wouldn't waive it if it was it's not Trump. If it were a conservative rally, they wouldn't be waiving it. So maybe you can look into that, Pam. Todd?
Mr. President.
That sounds like one for Todd, Pam. Go ahead, Todd. Good luck.
He actually
What network?
Oh my God.
It's an Arabic network based in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, but I am the foreign ruler today. Mr. President, you said that you might go to the Middle East on Sunday. Do you mean Egypt and Israel? And would you consider going to Gaza to see what things are?
I would. I might do that. I may do that. We haven't decided exactly. I'll be going to Egypt most likely. That's where everybody is gathered right now, and we appreciate that very much. But I'll be making the rounds, as the expression goes. I probably will.
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, you said you might go to Gaza. You're saying that's the first topic. I'm representing the TV pool, but I'm with NBC, sir.
That's too bad.
Okay. Well, just to clarify, you said you might go to Gaza, and then the second question I had earlier today, you said the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois should be jailed. Have you asked the Justice Department to look at possible charges?
No, I've seen
What the
law,
fuck?
And when you have a group of people where the police call off the safety for ICE officials, I've understood that, and I've read it today in numerous journals, that that's illegal. What they did is I guess it was ICE, Christie, right? They were under threat, and the police were helping beautifully, and it was fine. And then all of a sudden, a woman was on the line saying, everybody, move back, get out. And they were given an order by the second person in the police department, and the governor knew about it, the mayor knew about it. I understand that's a criminal offense. Do you want to comment?
MAGA manufactures AI slop videos? Oh my God. We're not going to make it. 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 These are the fucking things that your parents, who have no capacity to understand AI from like real videos, are watching all over fucking Facebook. This was one of the major problems. This was one of the major problems that I brought up with AI and having more and more bots pollute more and more chatbots pollute every single social media outlet. Every single social media platform is now polluted with these bots, and they just like deploy them in a unidirectional manner. Whenever there's an issue, they can just do this now. It's so fucked. I do not know how we are going to regulate this. I think if I was in charge, obviously this administration would never do that, but if I was in charge, one of the things that I would do is make it so that it's illegal to make it illegal to post an AI video without actually declaring it AI. There needs to be a fucking watermark that says like, this is an AI video, like a disclosure or something. There has to be a mandatory watermark, dude. It is so fucking bad. I mean, look at what Chris Cuomo did the other day. And Chris Cuomo is a media guy. He should know better. Remember when he posted the AOC thing? When it was like so obviously, it had a fucking watermark. Actually, now that I remember, that video had a watermark, and that dumb fuck still posted it. That video literally said, this is AI. This is an AI video, and he still posted it. Oh my God, we are so cooked. I don't see this going anywhere good, man. I don't see this going anywhere good.
They've emphasized that Antifa, it's not necessarily this big organized thing. It's a bit ambiguous. It's deorganized. I think that's one of the words that Andy used. What is the challenges of going after a group that makes it intentionally difficult to go after and find? That could be for you, the Attorney General, anyone up there.
Well, they're smart people, and they deceive. A lot of them are crooked people. A lot of them have been staying out of trouble their whole lives, and they've been bad from the day they were born, frankly. But these are sick people. Pam, go ahead, please.
Well, they're smart, but they're not smart enough. Oh, my microphone's broken. They're smart, but they're not smart enough. They have been covered by these liberal cities for so many years. And that's why we're all working with Treasury, with all these different departments, to find the criminal conspiracy.
Okay. I'm just giving. I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly. So I will take a couple of more questions, please.
Thank you, sir. I also have 2 questions for you, if I may. Have you given any more thought to possibly suspending habeas corpus to not only deal with these insurrectionists across the nation, but also to continue rapidly deporting illegal aliens?
Yeah, it's suspending who?
Habeas corpus, sir.
Oh, I don't know. I'd rather leave that to Christie. What do you think?
I haven't been a part of any discussions on that.
Chat, they are talking about suspending due process. Oh my Lord!
This is CNN speaking, by the way.
Okay, it's awesome that Trump doesn't know what habeas corpus is, by the way. It's very clear he did not know what it is, and I don't even think fucking Kirsty Noem knows what it is either.
How will you decide which workers get back pay?
Habeas corpus is due process.
Well, we're going to see. Most of them are going to get back pay, and we're going to try and make sure of that. But some of them are being hurt very badly by the Democrats, and they therefore won't qualify. Go ahead, please.
What will the administration do to foreign Antifa organizers and funders who are located overseas?
Go ahead. In the yellow, please.
So the Nobel Peace Prize will be announced on Friday. You've been nominated by many world leaders.
By many, many countries. That's right.
Many countries, as well as the hostage families. Do you think you will win?
I have no idea. I mean, look, I did settle. Marco would tell you we settled 7 wars. We're close to settling an 8th. And I think we'll end up settling the Russia situation, which is horrible. 7,000 people died last week, by the way, in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. I think we'll settle that. So I don't think anybody in history has settled that many, but perhaps they'll find a reason not to give it to me, you know? Perhaps they will. Thank you.
Going to the shutdown quickly, what is your position on the extension of health care subsidies, which is what Democrats are asking for?
Well, all I want to do is very simple. I want to get the country open, and then we're going to discuss that. And we'd like to, Obamacare is a horrible mess, and it has been from the beginning. We want to make it better, stronger, even if it costs more money, we want to make it better. The Democrats want to make it worse. The Democrats want to approve health care for illegals coming into our country, many of them coming in from prisons and mental institutions and drug dealers. They want to give them health care. We don't want that for our people because that's going to destroy the health care that we already have. We'd like to make Obamacare better for people, less expensive and better health care. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, I'm wondering if you've been briefed on the organization and funding of Antifa, and if so, what have you learned?
I have been, and they have pretty good knowledge, but they're going to have a very good knowledge. And I really ask these very brave patriots that we're surrounded with today to let us know, because I think you probably have some pretty good ideas. And even if you're not sure, let us know and we'll figure it out, okay? If you could do that. You're from Italy?
No, I'm I'm from France. Can you specify how close we are to the deal? Would that be announced today, tomorrow? And do you want to see the hostages released before you travel to the region?
No, I think I'll probably go maybe before the hostages are released or shortly thereafter, pretty much shortly thereafter. Yeah, please. Go ahead. Who are you with? Who are you with?
The Center Square. I had the honor of asking you originally if you would designate Antifa a terror organization. And I stand here before you today, and I'm echoing what Andy said over here. Are you going to work with your administration as the Secretary of State's here? Are you going to work with your administration to designate it a foreign terror organization?
You mean a terror?
Antifa? A foreign terror organization.
Well, has that been done? Pretty close, right? Would you like to see it done?
Yes, Mr. President.
You think it would help?
They have foreign
I'd be
links
glad
all
to
across
do it. I
Western
think it's
Europe.
the kind of thing I'd like to do. If you'd like, does
Middle
everybody
East.
agree? If you agree, I agree. Let's get it done, okay? Let's get it done. Marco, we'll take care of it.
Mr. President.
That's international, you mean?
Yes.
International.
Mr. President.
Sounds good to me. Steve, are you okay with it?
Yes, it's true. There are extensive foreign ties, and I think that would be a very valid step to take.
Good, I think so too.
Yes.
Good, I think it's a good point. Thank you.
Only participating in this. On the shutdown, we are now about 1 week away from military service members missing their paychecks.
We'll always take care of our military.
Would you encourage Congress to pass a standalone bill to pay our service members?
Yeah, that probably will happen. We don't have to worry about it yet. That's a long time. You know what 1 week is for me? An eternity. 1 week for me is a long time. We'll take care of it. Our military is always going to be taken care of. Yeah, please. Blue dress, blue.
Rebecca with Blaze News. I'm curious to know, you're talking about the money funding these Antifa organizations, and somebody brought up Roy Singham, I think it was you, who, by the way, is married to one of the co-founders.
I want to mention something here. What is anti-fascists protesting against? They're protesting against this administration doing fascism. That's the due diligence that he does before designating someone a foreign terrorist org. Does everyone agree? Okay, let's do it. Exactly. But on the other side, while these guys are trying to talk about how, like, the dudes wearing fucking frog costumes or whatever are, like, dangerous terrorists, dangerous homegrown terrorists that must be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, maybe shot and killed by the military. On the other hand, what is ICE doing? What is the unit of the federal government, the armed, jackbooted thugs of the state doing? That's a question you might have. So far, they've shot and killed an unarmed man, lied about the circumstances, shot a woman 5 times for obstructing their vehicle, roughed up elderly women, zip-tied small children, shot a clergyman in the face with a pepper ball, beat the fuck out of a 79-year-old like car wash owner, okay? Marched through downtown Chicago masked and armed. And also, they have not, and this is David Axelrod's brief summary here, they have not done the thing that they said they were tasked to do, which is going after the worst and the worst of all criminals. In the same time frame that since Donald Trump actually became president, ICE has also literally killed 17 people in detention. So as far as like which organization, if we were to even assume Antifa is an organization at all, which one is worse? It's not even a fucking question. Of course people are going to complain about this. Of course people are going to yell about this. And I'll tell you another thing that's really fucked up. While they are focusing all of their initiatives on targeting people at factories, targeting people at courthouses, as in people who are following the letter of the law, right? People who are already in constant communication with the federal government. They're going to their immigrant court hearings and they're getting apprehended at their court hearings next to their fucking families. While that's going on, the ICE resources and federal law enforcement resources in general, and this is their own admission, is being exhausted on doing that instead of investigating drug trafficking, sex crimes, and other various different crimes that are supposed to be dealt with by the federal law enforcement authorities. It is fucking insane. It is insane to me that anyone and everyone still to this day makes it seem as though this is totally appropriate. Like, even if you care about law and order, okay? Even if you care about law and order, a lot of people understandably do, right? But if you're like one of those guys who's like, I want criminals to be punished, right? Because there's a difference between like, I want law and order and I really want to stick it to the fucking real criminals, right? Even if you were duped by Donald Trump's initial assessment that the Brandon administration was simply refusing to prosecute the worst of the worst criminals and worst of the worst offenders, okay? You should be fucking frustrated right now, considering that they're not doing that. Like, they are literally not doing that at all. They are just simply doing everything in their power to terrify black and brown people, terrify migrants, both documented and undocumented, terrify neighbors of migrants, both documented and undocumented. And in the process, because there's only a finite amount of resources that exist to do this, they have stopped actually prosecuting and investigating real criminals. It's fucking insane, dude.
Cash, thanks for the great job. Always my man back down there.
Thank you, Jay Drew, for the 25 get the subs.
Thank you all. We're gonna get peace in the Middle East. That's what we want to do. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Who is they? Whites? Just saw it. Anyway, I honestly feel like the moral majority is just jealous of a stronger family values of immigrant families, and no one can change my mind. No, it's just like it's fear. It's pure. It's not even fear. It's just pure hysteria, right? It's hysteria that they themselves designed as a galvanizing force. The notion that like undocumented migrants are responsible for heinous crimes and whatnot, and they did that because they wanted to get votes. They wanted people to vote for them, right? They wanted people to go out and vote for the administration. So in the absence of like any sort of real problem that they could commit to solving, like the cost of living crisis, right, which is a major driving force behind why Republicans voted against the pre-existing administration, against the Democratic administration, because they had experienced real negative wage growth, negative real wage growth for a year and a half under the Biden administration. So they were very frustrated, and they felt like Kamala Harris was not adequately addressing these issues, right? They felt as though, a lot of people felt as though Kamala Harris was not going to represent the change that they wanted to see. And they foolishly thought perhaps the Republicans would represent said change. Now, of course, for some people, they do care about this like racist shit, right? They do care about, prosecuting migrants because they're scared. They feel bad. They're worried. For others, perhaps they believed Donald Trump's false presentation that migrants were responsible for unimaginable shares of crimes, when in fact it was the exact opposite, right? When you look at the data, when you look at the actual data, it shows that undocumented migrants are responsible for a lower percentage of crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens are. Significantly lower, especially if you factor in documented and undocumented migrants together, because these guys are also, remember, going after documented migrants as well. They're not just going after undocumented migrants. It is magnitudes lower, as a matter of fact. So they pay, the undocumented migrants and documented migrants alike pay taxes. They do not receive anything in return for said taxes that they pay. They work for pennies on the dollar. They work tirelessly. And then instead of getting their documentation cleared, because that's simply what this is. These people are not committing heinous crimes. They are simply not getting the proper documentation. They're not getting the proper paperwork cleared. Instead of expeditiously offering them the proper paperwork that they deserve to have to work freely on U.S. soil, right? The Trump administration has decided to punish these people. The Trump administration has decided to punish people just as pawns.